Good afternoon from Miami. Good morning to the west coast of the USA and Canada, and good evening to Europe. Dear friends and partners, it is my honor to welcome you to our webinar, which takes place over 9 hours time zone. My name is Karen Anderson. I'm the current president of SKAL Miami. To get started, let me quickly explain what SKAL is. SKAL is the global hospitality organization with over 15,000 members, 350 clubs in 102 nations. SKAL is the only international organization that brings together all branches of the hospitality industry, connecting tourism worldwide. Members meet at national and international levels in an environment of friendship to discuss subjects of common interest. More info about SKAL and your local chapters can be viewed on the webpage at skal.org. In 2020, our travel and hospitality industry was and is still facing a very challenging world due to the global pandemic. There were moments when fear was greater than hope. Trust in our industry, together with the innovation and resilience of our global network, is the backbone of SKAL. Like many businesses, our hospitality industry has been proud to step up where needed, from food delivery to frontline worker assisting or creating new businesses. Now that the vaccinations have started all over the world, we have hope that our industry will return stronger and more sustainable than ever before. The education of the next generation of travel and tourism industry professionals is another focus point for 21, especially now when plenty of young students and first-time job seekers are presented with a very difficult circumstances. It seems more critical than ever to support the young generation. We ask you to offer either a mentorship or job opportunity to those hospitality workers. Then one thing is for sure, the world will need our services again in the near future. And now I'm pleased to pass on the microphone to Mr. René Riedi, Chairman of the Florida chapter for the Swiss American Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for your attention and please enjoy the webinar.
Thanks, Karin. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a warm welcome to what I believe an interesting and entertaining webinar about the cruise industry. A particular thanks goes to our speakers, Bill Panoff and Adrian Pittaway, who have agreed to present today their views of the current state of the cruise industry and how they envision its future post-COVID. But before starting, please allow me to quickly introduce to you our organization, the Florida chapter of the Swiss American Chamber of Commerce. Our organization plays a vital and active role in assisting Swiss companies in the United States and vice versa to expand their business network. The Swiss American Chamber of Commerce is a non-for-profit organization. Amongst the many roles is that the Chamber promotes and facilitates trade relations between the US and Switzerland and provides essential information and support about doing business in these markets. If someone of you is interested in becoming a member, I suggest to visit our website, which is www.SACCFL.com, or simply search in the internet for Swiss American Chamber of Commerce Florida chapter, and you will find guidance how to become a member. But also you will find some other useful information. Before starting, I would like to remind you of the chat function on your screen. Since you will be put on mute during the presentation for obvious reasons, you will be able to put forward your questions by using this chat function. We will then, after the presentation in the Q&A session, come back to your questions. So, the Florida Ports Council has estimated that the economic impact of the COVID-19 on the 15 ports in Florida has reached $22 billion, cutting 775 million in tax revenues and affecting more or less 170,000 jobs. That is significant impact on Florida, since 60% of the cruise activity occurs in Florida. As we all know, the industry in the US has come last year to complete stop. It is pretty much a full year the tourists have last time been able to enjoy cruise vacations. What is the status of the cruise industry in the US and worldwide? And how do we get the ships back into the water? This and other topics will be discussed in the coming hour. I'm extremely happy to introduce to you now Bill Panoff, our first speaker, who will also moderate the Q&A session. Bill began his career in 1980 as a professional magician and later as a cruise director aboard cruise ships. In 1987, he headed for land to establish PPI Group and create custom publication and marketing programs for travel industry clients. In 1996, he founded Porthole Cruise Magazine, today's leading cruise and travel lifestyle magazine, celebrating this year its 25th anniversary. Porthole Cruise covers all cruise experiences from mega ships to river ships, expeditions, luxury experiences, all of which Bill says he loves to share with readers. Bill has a deep understanding of the cruise industry, and therefore I'm humbled to have him here today. Bill, will you take over from here? Thanks.
Renee, thank you very, very much. It's a pleasure to be with you all and a pleasure to be invited to host this webinar. Again, I'm Bill Panoff, the chairman of the PPI Group and founder of Porthole Cruise Magazine, as Renee mentioned, and thank you again all for being here. 2020 was a year like no other. It started very well. Cruising was experiencing unprecedented growth with countless new ships on the horizon. Of course, 2020 had other plans, dissolving a number of cruise lines, putting many at a standstill, which leads us to ask, is there a future for the cruise industry? Slide number 2. From the highest of highs to the lowest of lows, our industry spent the year on what you would call an emotional roller coaster, led by sensational headlines of the cruise industry sinking or being slammed, painting cruise lines in a very negative light, oftentimes without the full story. Slide number 3. So what did the cruise industry do? Slide number 4. They took this pause as an opportunity to resync and for advancements. For example, MSC Cruises released extensive health plan details and successively resumed operations in Europe. Virgin Voyages released Voyage Well Plan. Royal Caribbean implemented a new safety drill, Muster 2.0. Windstar Cruises launched their Beyond Ordinary Care program, and Norwegian Cruise Line Director of Health unveiled their guide for safe cruising. Slide number 5. But that's just really the beginning. Ports continue expanded with new cruise terminals at Port Miami, groundbreaking Terminal V for Virgin Voyages at Port of Miami. Carnival Cruise Line breaks ground on new Terminal F at Port of Miami. MSC future plans for port terminal expansion at Terminal AA and AAA at Port of Miami. And the Port of Antigua completed a complete construction of the 5th cruise pier. Slide number 6. And just recently, the world's largest cruise port, Port Miami, goes completely green. This is a huge step for the cruise industry as a whole, and we will see environmental impact as a huge focal point as we move forward in the cruise industry. Slide number 7. So where are the cruise lines headed? Slide number 8. Over the past year, I've spoken to all the senior cruise executives on my YouTube channel, Cruise Control. And the overall message I hear over and over again, there is a huge pent-up demand for cruising to return. Slide number 9. MSC Cruises in particular deserves praise for their restart in Europe over the past few months, proving to the world that cruising can be safe in the face of a pandemic. Their blueprint for success is commendable, and many advancements instituted on board are changes with a blueprint that will improve the cruise industry long after the world returns to normal operations. Slide number 10. Joining me now is our honor to discuss how MSC is contributing to the future and evolution of cruising is our friend Adrian Pittaway. Adrian is the head of retail for MSC Cruises, and he heads the largest in-house cruise retail operation in the world, leading all aspects of MSC's retail business, including buying, operations, logistics, and business development for nearly 200 premium brands. Adrian, it's thrilled to have you here. Please take it from here.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much, Bill, for introducing me. My name is Adrian Pittaway. I'm the head of retail at MSC Cruises. I'd like to personally thank both Rennie and Karin for inviting me today to present a little bit of industry insight for you all. And hopefully over the next 20 minutes, we can give you some good inside information about the cruise industry, a little bit about MSC, and some examples and some case studies of things that are going on so that you can have a little bit of informative insight as to what we're doing. I've called this presentation Cruising to Recovery. I think it's a more apt title than Is There a Future from the Cruise Industry, because ultimately there are many things that we are doing and many things as an industry that we've started to do. And I think it's important for us to sort of share a lot of that detail with you and be able to give you a little bit of confidence as to what's going to happen. So the first thing I'd like to do is just present MSC to you. You may have heard of us before, you may not have heard of us before, but let us give you a little bit of insight about it. And it's very apt for us to be invited by the Swiss America Chamber of Commerce, because like you, we are a proud Swiss company. MSC Cruises has been headquartered and registered here in Geneva, Switzerland, where I'm talking to you today from, since 1978. We were actually founded back in 1970 by our founder, Captain Gianluigi Ponti, who started the first cargo ship on MSC Cargo, and he's still our chair and president today. And we are a privately owned family company, fully operated inside the MSC family. We have more than 70,000 employees working across 155 locations globally, and our consolidated annual revenue is around about $25 billion. So MSC Cruises is one of our brands. We also have MSC Cargo, which is one of the largest cargo ship companies in the world. We have a port operation business called Terminal Investment Limited, and we have a number of ferry companies as well, GNV and SNAV. The cruise line, our unique DNA is a very unique one in our industry. We are the world's largest family-owned and family-run cruise line today, and we have a very different ownership structure than many of our competitors. But actually overall, from foundation in 2003, we've become the 4th largest cruise line by capacity today. We are the most global cruise line in the world and have this ability to adapt to local tastes and preferences wherever we go, which I'll explain a little bit more in a few moments. We work across all 5 continents. And as of today, we have 18 ships in our fleet, with up to 11 more coming into service by 2030. And as you can see from the outline of our companies, we are first and foremost very much a shipping company, and all we do is shipping. It's our passion and it's our life, and it's very much the core principle of the entire MSC group. What guests can expect on MSC Cruises, first and foremost, is a real commitment to sustainability. We're really trying to lead in this area in the industry, and we'll talk a little bit about how we're doing that through this presentation. Not only that, we're trying to offer our guests the latest technology and really trying to enhance their cruise experience by a number of different innovations. We have enriching excursions and onboard activities, refined international dining, award-winning entertainment, real focus on families with our immersive kids and family programs, a variety of stylish and comfortable accommodations, and really beautiful and luxurious spas, which are offering head-to-toe pampering for our guests. Today, our 18 ships are carrying 185 nationalities around the world, which, as I say, makes us an extremely global and varying cruise line. And our ships are currently visiting around about 102 countries per year. Here in Europe and the Mediterranean, we are absolutely the #1 cruise line. We're also the #1 cruise line in South America, in Southern Africa, and also in the Middle East, in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and India. With you over in America, we are really fast growing, and as Bill talked about, we've just going to be building a new port terminal at Miami, but now having significant seasonal capacity increases planned. and also in Asia, where we recently started operating cruises both in China and Japan as well. We are really focusing on organic growth, and as a company, our 18 ships have been all built by MSC, created by MSC, and we operate across 5 prototype classes, which have really been designed and created by the MSC marine architectural teams, along with leading shipyards here in Europe at Fincantieri in Italy and Chantier Atlantique in Saint-Nazaire in France. And this spearheads the growth plan that we have ahead of us, which is to introduce up to 11 new ships to come into service by 2030 in our MSC Cruises brand. We are today recently just launched MSC Virtuosa, which is our first new ship of 2021, and we'll be joined by a second ship, the MSC Seashore, which I'll talk a little bit more about later in the presentation. But next year we will have 2 new ships coming into service, and right the way through up until 2030. We are fully committed to building. We are not looking to change anything because of the crisis, and very much the organic growth plan that we have as a company will continue. And it will also evolve itself into a new luxury brand. One of the fastest growing areas of cruising is the luxury segment, and MSC will be joining this from 2023, when we will launch a brand new luxury brand into market. And this will be a real pioneer also in sustainability, because one of the exciting developments that we have coming will be a future new class, which will actually be wind powered, something that's really exciting and innovative as cruise ships really develop for the future. But let's go back to the here and now. Honestly, the most important thing that you want to understand a little bit about, and coming on this presentation today, is the cruise industry today and what's happened over the last 12 months. And let's think about fundamentally how we as a business need to adapt in a new environment and what we're going to do across the industry. I want to focus on 3 main questions, which I hope will give you a little bit of insight. What is happening now? What's going to happen next? And what is going to be the longer term prospect for cruising, and how should we understand that? And hopefully each of those 3 questions I can give you a little bit of information on, and hopefully give you a little bit of explanation as to what's going on. As Bill alluded to in this presentation, you know, it's been a challenging year overall. And if we look at what's happening now, there's a very stark statistic that really stands out. And that is over 300 plus cruise ships worldwide. Today, there are currently just 11 cruise ships in active service around the world, not in Florida, not in, we're talking globally in terms of where we are. And that just tells you just the level of business impact that's been had on the global cruise industry, not just in the US, but in all markets around the world. Now, luckily from MSC, we've been able to really pioneer that restart. And from the 16th of August last year, our flagship MSC Grandiosa started again operations and has sailed over 25 successful 7-day cruises in the Western Mediterranean since then, which has given us a great understanding of how to restart. She's going to be joined on the 1st of May by a ship very familiar to you in Miami, but is now relocated into Europe, MSC Seaside, which will also relaunch again in the Western Mediterranean from the 1st of May. And how do we do that? Well, fundamentally, MSC was the first major cruise line to implement a health and safety protocol. This allowed us to restart operations based on a very simple principle, which is a delivery of a safe, reimagined cruise experience that guests would ultimately enjoy and feel relaxed within. We wanted MSC to do all of the hard work so guests could feel safe, relaxed, and enjoyed on board all the things that they loved about cruising. The first thing which we did was looked at all the different guidelines around the world, what the World Health Organization, the European Healthy Gateways, and many different agencies to ensure that whatever we created, our guidelines went above and beyond that set by authorities. So whatever we were able to reimagine was really going to be industry leading and really as safe as possible to be able to deliver. This enabled us to think about a holistic approach across the entire consumer journey, from the booking of the cruise to the embarkation on the ships, to life on board, and ultimately the return back home of our guests. We had 3 real core priorities. 1, to reduce the risk of having a suspect COVID case joining the ship. 2, to mitigate the transmission of the virus while guests were on board ship. And 3, to avoid guests returning back home and falling sick. Across our entire business, various different departments and business leaders across our teams really worked together to create this protocol. And really combine this together, we were able to present it to the various authorities last summer and able to get the ability to restart in a pioneering way. The protocol has 8 core ways that we try to keep our guests safe. And these are the 8 elements that really define how MSC was able to restart. The first one, and a really significant one, was having universal health screening to everybody that's on board our ships. This means that all guests and all crew who embark on our ships are tested for COVID-19 with a PCR test. We also ask all our guests and crew to have a second test at least 72 hours before embarking to act as a second measure. We've elevated the sanitation and cleaning measures across our ships to make sure that we are doubling the efforts, or it was already a very high standard, to a super high standard. The air that comes into our ships is 100% fresh air. There's no recirculation at all. And we have made sure that all air that is in cabins or in public areas absolutely comes directly in and then goes directly out. As a safety net on board our ships, we have responsible social distancing. So all the various different areas on board the cruise ship, like the theatre, the restaurants, the pool decks, the shops, the spa, all have restrictions and capacity to make sure that we have that responsible social distancing, and we keep guests well spaced apart whilst they're on their cruise. We've enhanced the medical facilities that we have on board our ship, and we also have ongoing health monitoring, whereas we take everybody's temperature on a daily basis. We actually do a second COVID test for all our guests at some point during the cruise, and made sure that also that our crew are monitored actively as well. Guests love to go to the ports that they come to on our cruise, and at the moment we still allow them to go ashore, but we do that as part of an approved shore excursion, which allows guests to stay within a safe bubble and honestly go and see places that they have with pre-tested tour guides, and really in a way that keeps them apart from any risks that they may have when they go ashore. And this has been a really well received and a great part of the cruise experience. And not only that, then the last part is having a contingency response plan. And that means that if there is a case on board, or if there is a specific issue that we have a fast responding plan, which is really designed to make sure we mitigate any risk to the rest of passengers. Having areas on ships which are quarantine spaces and having partnerships with local ports, we're able to really deliver that. What that's meant is that the global restart plans that MSC has adopted are really becoming an industry-wide protocol. And as a result of that, we can look at the global cruise market in 3 areas. In Europe, probably one of the most advanced areas, we were able to operate and restart our ship last summer. We will have 2 from May, and hopefully we'll have some exciting more news soon. Other cruise lines like Costa Cruises will be restarting their ships from March alongside AIDA. And also really excitingly to see Royal Caribbean, which will be starting its new ship Odyssey of the Seas, home porting out of Israel when it restarts in May. And those of you following the news will have seen really exciting news today coming from the UK that they've also allowed domestic restarting of their cruise industry from the 17th of May. Closer to home for you in the USA and Caribbean, at the moment, no restarts are currently confirmed. All cruise lines are actively working with the CDC and very close in contact with them. And at the moment, the majority of all the major cruise lines have a pause until at least 31st of May. And we're really hopeful that some point after that, there will be a move forward and hopefully an ability to restart when it's safe to do so. And then in the rest of the world, again, the picture is very, very small. It's one market really at the moment, Singapore, which actually has allowed both Royal Caribbean and Dream Cruises to start operating cruises to nowhere at roughly a 50% capacity on their ships. But in other areas of the rest of the world, there are currently no restarts confirmed. But that's as it is today, and that's as we look at it. What's going to happen next? And that's really the next question for us to ask. And I think here we can look at probably 3 phases that are important to understand. Phase A, which is really where we're starting to come into now, is the initial recovery of the cruise industry. And this is from early 2021 to probably about the middle of 2021. Here we're going to be seeing regional restarts with local passengers. That means that people going on to cruise ships have generally traveled locally to the cruise ship and haven't gone too far. So the idea of fly cruising or people traversing continents is probably going to be not happening. But Italians embarking on a ship in Italy or Americans embarking on a ship in Miami is absolutely the way that we think the restarts will happen. Ships will be operating with a limited capacity, ultimately, anywhere between 30 and 70% full levels. Most of the cruise lines will only have a few ships per fleet, so a lot of ships still will be in what we call layup. And all cruise lines operating will be starting with these full safety protocols on board. And I'm pleased to say that a lot of the pioneering protocols which were created by MSC generally have become now very much an industry best practice. And most cruise lines, when you look at their restart protocols, are really following a very similar position to us. There will be some cruise lines that will expect the guests to be vaccinated when they come on board, but as yet, that's very much line by line in terms of decision. The second phase that we're going to see, which is really from about middle 2021 to early 2022, is going to be a return to normality. Here we should see most areas back in operation again. We should start to see the majority of cruise line fleets in service and starting to see increased capacity per ship. We've got a lot of pent-up demand currently from passengers who want to come back cruising again. There's a huge number of people who have simply deferred their cruise decision to the future, and therefore we think that pent-up demand will come back into the industry in this period of time. And there will be a retention of a number of these safety protocol measures that will be put in place by most of the cruise lines. And then the third phase really is looking from 2022 onwards, when we get back to this growth again. You know, Bill talked a little bit about it in the presentation. Our industry has had this super growth plan, and we expect this to come back. We expect full fleet operations into place. We expect, once again, those new market opportunities that have started to be discovered to come back. And we should start to see a return to the pre-COVID growth plans across the tourism and cruise industry. But the focus will be on newer, more efficient ships, as a lot of cruise lines start to think forward about how in a post-COVID world they really want to position themselves and the ship types that they want to bring into service. If you actually look at the capacity to grow in the industry is there. In 2019, we had 27.8 million passengers choosing to go on a cruise globally. And that was roughly at around about 100% capacity, which meant that the industry was really filling ships very well. In 2022, whilst it's not yet confirmed, there will be a capacity to carry around about 31.7 million passengers once again into the cruise industry. And by 2027, with the number of new ships that are on order at the moment, that level of passengers should be 38.7 million across the world. And that will come out of a lot of new markets and a lot of exciting areas where cruise has the capacity to grow strongly. So what's the longer term prospect? What I want to try and do is sort of present you 3 case studies a little bit about what we're going to see. And obviously they're a little bit MSC focused because that's where I am, that's my background. But hopefully it gives you a little indication of where the cruise industry is going to be heading. And the cruise will return once more as a strong travel sector. And it's probably going to do it in 3 key ways: with experience, with efficiency, and obviously with sustainability. So with experience, we're seeing a lot of new ships which have been ordered, which are being built, and which have been finalized. Us ourselves in MSC obviously have 11 new ships coming into service by 2030. And the experience of these ships is going to be more and more important. As an example, I could give you is a ship which is going to be coming to the US and Caribbean later this year in November, and that's MSC Seashore. She's going to be delivered out of the shipyard in August of this year. And you can see from the first picture here, a really different design and a fantastically innovative styled ship. A ship really which becomes a resort in itself. MSC Seashore has one of the highest space outside for passenger of any cruise ship ever created by a completely different design. So from things having the engine mounted halfway down to be able to free up a lot of deck space, to completely reconfiguring the way that the structure of the ship was created. The way that MSC Seashore will be able to communicate to guests will have this fantastic ability to have new spaces and new ways of operating. And just to give you some examples of some of the experiences on board MSC Seashore, you know, from dining outside with a fantastic alfresco deck at night, enjoying a butcher's cut steak, to having an infinity pool options, whether it be along the side of the deck or at the back of the ship, while you sunbathe on our Miami beach deck, designed around the Miami Art Deco apartments, or going up into the outdoor bars that will be littering around the ship. MSC Seashore has this fantastic set of new experiences and new ways of really designing the space. And it's not only in MSC, you're going to see also other cruise lines. For example, Carnival will bring a ship this year with a roller coaster on board. We've got Royal Caribbean bringing ships out with these fantastic aqua theaters. You know, there are really new and exciting features which are coming onto cruise ships over the next period of time. And that's going to be a real feature of the excitement of the rebuilding of cruise. Is going to be very much about the ship as a fantastically exciting destination. Not only that, we're going to see a focus on efficiency. And I want to present you this fantastic ship. This is MSC World Europa. She's going to be launched in the second half of next year. You can see by the style and the design of the ship, it's something really radically different and designed by MSC to really be a cutting edge ship to really post towards a new look to cruising and a new way cruisings have been designed. This is a worldwide ship. It will be deployed in many different markets, but the core focus of the ship is going to be on efficiency. She will be our first LNG powered vessel and will be joined by up to 9 other LNG powered vessels over the next decade. LNG uses 99% less particle emissions and sulfur dioxide than standard fuel. We'll have 85% less nitrogen oxide, 20% less CO2 emissions coming out. And as Bill talked about at Port Miami, this ship will absolutely be fundamental to this shorter ship power revolution that will come into cruise ships, whereby really ships will have this hybrid system of being able to power themselves in a much more sustainable way. Not only are these features going in toward Europe, but they're actually going across our fleet. And as we design new ships and as we bring these new ships into service, efficiency is absolutely at the cornerstone of that. And the environmental technology that we are creating into new builds is really going to pioneer a new sense of efficiency as a core element of cruise ship, whether it be having exhaust gas cleaning systems, selective catalytic reduction systems, freshwater production plants out of seawater, having advanced wastewater treatment that really puts all waste back to absolutely clean water again, having heat recovery loops, having smart HVAC ventilation systems. There are so many different innovations coming into cruise ships which are focusing on the efficiency and really the sustainability of them, that really you're going to see these coming more and more as ships going to be designed. And there's a long way to go for sure, but this level of innovation which is coming across the cruise industry is something that's going to be, a critical element of really maintaining the relevance and the future direction of where we are. Not only in terms of the ships, but also thinking about the places where we go to as well is also going to be important. And my third case study for you looking at sustainability is our own private island, Ocean Key. If you're in Miami at the moment, you're not very far away from this. It's about 50 miles away from Miami. It's a brand new island which we opened back in December 2019 in the Bohemian Bimini Islands. And here sustainability was really at the cornerstone of creating this amazing location and this amazing resort. Ocean Key was a former sand mining site in the Bohemian Bimini Islands. If you go on the white sandy beaches of Florida, the most likeliness is that has been extracted as aragonite, which has come out of this island in its former life. And when MSC took over this island, we have removed over 7,500 tons of scrap metal and industrial waste from the island and the sea around it to really try and bring it back to some level of normality. This was a huge undertaking and one that's really at the cornerstone of what the Ocean Key project is about. Today, when we open the island, we've already planted 75,000 plants and shrubs on this island, alongside 5,000 trees and palms. 95% of all planted species are actually fully native to the Caribbean, and really the idea is to populate the flora and fauna on this island to really be a fantastic natural paradise. We've relocated 400 coral colonies on this island, and actually we have taken 64 square miles of marine reserve around Ocean Key and designated this as an area that we're really going to focus on a sustainable underwater development plan, which will be replanting super coral into this area and really starting to focus on educating and informing our guests actually on the benefits of what we're able to do. And this is a real example of how the cruise industry can actually really drive positive change and positive anticipation by guests. It's a resort that's been absolutely loved by all guests that have traveled there so far, and really is going to develop fantastically over the next period of time. And from my own area in retailing, just to tell you a little about what we've done on Ocean Key, we actually created a changed business model with the core principle built around sustainability. So we've managed to do this by creating a lot of local partnerships with dedicated sustainable product sourcing, and actually across the core products that you're going to find on the island, really made sure we had core sustainability principles in that product. So we went and met with the Bohemian government a couple of years ago and really started to look at ways that we could work with local artisans and local companies on the Bahamas to really follow the model that we wanted to do on the island, to make sure that products were locally sourced and locally shipped to the island. So there wasn't going to be a huge amount of logistics and air miles or sea miles, whatever you wanted to call it. So the majority of product were going to be absolutely locally sourced. Not only that, but we've actually worked with a lot of these artisans to help them to become more sustainable in their practices of packaging, of design, of materials. You know, we've worked with a number of companies so far in order to get rid of plastic out of their packaging, as an example, or to move to organic ingredients and find artisan products that can go in there. And this forms the core backbone of the products that go onto the island and the way that we've done it. Not only that, we've also changed our own product sourcing strategy to really make sure that we follow the principles of what Ocean Key is about. So, for example, we don't allow plastic, single-use plastic on the island. So we created a new way of guests to get water bottles, fill up places across the island, and really try and promote that idea of sustainable reusing. The sunglasses that we created for Ocean Key, a whole range of specifically designed sunglasses, have all been made out of recycled fishing nets that have been pulled from the sea. So we actually went and found materials and worked with a manufacturer to create something new. And the sun care that we have put on the island is completely coral friendly. So this is a new range of sun care that we worked on specifically. And ultimately, a large part of what we're trying to do here is actually educate guests on, you know, just simple things like sun care that they use, and really making sure that they understand the realities of what you have to do and the way that you have to do it. So you can see in all of the building blocks and all the way that we've tried to design this, really this has been the fundamental heart of it. And this is an island with a vision. You know, Ocean Key is going to really develop in an exciting way over the next period of time. And for all cruise ships that come out of Miami or operate to the Bahamas, it's a really exciting destination that's going to develop and really nurture itself over the next few years. And it's deliberately an island with a vision, because it's very much the sort of the vision of our owner, the family that own MSC, that really want to create something that's long lasting and much more sustainable for the future generations that come cruising with us. So that's the end of my presentation. In conclusion, I'd like to say just 3 core points to you. One is that, you know, cruise is going to be back stronger than ever, with high global demand predicted based on what we expect. There's going to be an increasing importance of sustainability and stewardship, which is going to be a top priority, particularly in relation to the destinations and the partnerships that the industry will have. And the innovative new ships which will come out will really continue to attract new holidaymakers and offer really exciting experiences for guests to be able to come with. So many thanks. Thank you for your presentation, and hopefully we've given you a little bit of information that helps you to understand a bit more about our cruise industry.
Adrian, thank you very, very much for such an illuminating presentation. That was really quite remarkable and very insightful. Thank you. Just a few questions that have seemed to have risen among many that we'd love to ask you relative to your presentation and to the cruise industry. The first one was, with MSC's recent advancements in ship design, are there plans to retire or update some of the older ships with MSC that they currently operate?
So you'll have seen that a lot of the major cruise lines have retired a lot of ships in the past year. You know, you've seen pictures coming out of various countries of a lot of cruise ships going to scrap. MSC has one of the youngest fleets. We have an average age of 7.5 years on our fleet at the moment. And as it stands today, we don't believe we need to scrap any of our ships. Our ships are pretty efficient. They're pretty new, and they are able to come back into service. So at the moment, we have no plans to do this.
Got it. Another question that was brought to us. Many of the guest shore excursions are obviously pre-arranged through the cruise industry and through the cruise lines. Is this a strategy that you think will remain indefinitely?
No. I think that the pre-arranged shore excursions will be on place whilst we have the safety protocols on board. But ultimately, you know, guests want to be able to explore. They want to go and enjoy the various destinations that they go to. And as soon as it's safe for us to allow them to do so, absolutely, we will do that, because one of the beauties of cruising is the idea of going to explore many different ports. So we want to make sure that they're able to do that as soon as it's safe to do so.
Gotcha. Another question was, how many changes have been made, and how are you approaching employee training in light of COVID?
Really good question. You know, looking after the crew on board our ships is really important. You know, we obviously, as you will have understood, there's a lot of crew that have not been embarking, and there's a big challenge across the industry. But we've tried to really engage the crew in terms of training. So as we are all now talking on Zoom, the way that we are training and starting to engage all our crew still at home has been through channels like Zoom. We've connected them with brands, we've connected them with various institutions, and we're really trying to make sure that whilst they're waiting, whilst they're ready to come back on board again, that absolutely that remote time that they have is able to be put to good use. So training is an active one. There's been some great examples so far, and I think it's one that will continue to stay. You know, we like the fact that a brand is in my shops, just as an example, you know, they can go live by video into our shops on board and do a training to a team directly there, rather than having to come on board and travel all the way to various ports. So it will be much more efficient, and we actually think training will actually increase as a result of this.
How will you adjust the retail experience from your contemporary brand to the upcoming luxury line of ships?
Very good question. Luxury cruising is going to be a really exciting channel for us, and we basically went back to a blank piece of paper to create the retail on the luxury cruise line. You know, the way that guests will enjoy that ship and the retailing on board that ship is going to be something different. Now, we've not released anything about it at the moment, so I don't want to spill any internal secrets as to what we're going to be doing. But in a few months' time, we'll be releasing some really exciting information about the luxury cruise line and all of the fantastic retailing that's going to be on board. It's a really exciting change, and you know, thinking about retailing on board a wind-powered cruise ship is going to be something that's really exciting us about how to do that differently. That's for sure. Absolutely.
Have you noticed many of the brands that you could collaborate with adopting their marketing strategies to cruising due to the pandemic? Have they made any major shifts?
I think at the moment, you know, the majority of brands and suppliers that are coming into the cruise industry are working closer with us than ever before, and we're really saying to most partners, you know, be patient. You know, that's the most important thing we can say to everybody at the moment. You can see what's coming is going to be exciting. We expect it to come back quickly, and therefore, you know, if cruise is not there in your plans for 2020, 2021, get it there ready for 2022, because we're going to be ready to start going at full speed again. So I think most marketing brands and most brands, you know, are conscious of what we're doing, and our job, as we're doing here with you all today, is to really give you confidence of what's coming back into this industry, and then be able to really say, okay, we're going to be ready to go, and you should be ready to go with us as well. So as long as everybody's understanding and everybody's on the same speed, I think we'll see that come back quite quickly.
Do you have any plans to develop luxury brand locations at Ocean Cay, the private island, in the future as well?
At the moment, no, we don't perceive doing that. I think Ocean Cay is an island very much about the island, and therefore the retailing and all of the activities that we do on this island are really sort of designed around about the Ocean Cay experience. So we have a fantastic luxury brand experience on board our ships. You know, we have fantastic shops, and there's loads of stuff going on there. The island offers, I guess, something really different, and also the fact that there are many other ports of call in the Caribbean that have very good luxury brand offerings. So we want to offer something a little bit different on Ocean Cay.
Gotcha. Adrian, thank you very much. Again, it was an amazing presentation, and I think now we're going to open it up to questions and answers to those who are attending. And my colleague, I think, is going to organize that.
Yeah, here we go. We have here a question. Do you expect all major players to survive the difficult times?
Yes. I think that, you know, let's look at it. There are 4 major cruise companies. There's, you know, Carnival, there's Royal Caribbean, there's Norwegian, and there's MSC. I think all of these companies have made sure that they're okay, that they're understanding it. You know, see lots of share issuing coming up by the American cruise lines. And I think that the appetite is there in terms of pent-up bookings to make sure that the patience on these companies is there. So I foresee that these cruise lines will come back and be able to be in a strong place.
Well, we had a smaller cruise lines which they got liquidated, or they're just out of the market. We have seen that in the past, but you see the big ones, they're going to continue, and they're going to
I think, yeah, you know, and there's been like CMV is a good example here in Europe, which was an 8-ship cruise line that had a challenge and went into liquidation. I think those companies that were going to not survive have not survived. I think the companies that are now going are ready to come back, and as I say, you know, I think that the prognosis for most of these companies looks pretty good in the medium term. So therefore, I think most investors are pretty patient and able to support them.
I agree with Adrian 100%. You know, some of the larger lines have trimmed some of the fat in their organization, not only with employees, but also with the number of their older ships. So they're leaner and meaner and stronger, and they come back with a vengeance. And again, the pent up demand is just out of control. People are so excited to get back on a cruise ship. I mean, think about it. There's no better and more affordable vacation. Where else can you go where you pay one fee and you sail around 3 different destinations? The scenery is constantly changing. The food is included. The entertainment is included. There's no more affordable opportunity out there, and it's going to grow and come back bigger and better than ever.
I have here another question. What is your projection about North American market startup, for instance, to full extent or to 2019 level? I mean, probably is the 2019 level plus a trajectory. I mean, probably, Bill, you know more about that.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I think there's going to be, obviously the CDC hasn't made any final announcements in terms of the green light. So I think many of the cruise lines are anxiously awaiting, and some of them are putting back their startup dates. But as Adrian mentioned, the ships will come back, in a very small way. If there's a large fleet like Carnival or Norwegian, they're going to bring back a few ships, initially doing smaller, shorter cruises from a drive market, either Miami, Fort Lauderdale, where the guests can drive to the vessel. But I think for it to come back full steam, I think it won't be until 2023 that we really see, more of the ships going to more of the ports and things returning to more of a normal environment.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think until the CDC decide or announce exactly what's going to happen, it's difficult to timeline it. You have to see where the CDC will be and then move it forward from there in terms of how that looks in terms of timescale.
We have a question about vaccination. I mean, we have talked about to keep the passengers safe on board the ships. But do you see that a way to start a business that some cruise lines will, or maybe even CDCs around the world will ask for passengers to be vaccinated?
Yeah, if you look at, I'll give Israel as a good example because that's fresh out of the news with Royal Caribbean. To operate in Israel, the ship will have all passengers vaccinated and all crew vaccinated, and that will be mandated by the Israeli government for the ship to operate out of that area. It's not been mandated by many countries yet, and as I say, it's still, I think, in infancy as to understand how it will deliver and which it will go. But I think, as always, this is an industry that shares best practice in a very quick period and a very quick way. So I can foresee, some level of continuity coming on this area.
Yeah, I agree. I think until guests are fully vaccinated and the crew is vaccinated, I think the growth of the industry will be stalled until that happens, and will then go forward in a big way.
There's a question about sustainability. Is the cruise industry also addressing the challenges that motor coach use for excursions will be a major hurdle? This is when you go on shore excursions. I know it's something that you will want to answer, or
can you repeat that?
Addressing the challenges that motor coach use for excursions will be a major hurdle. Basically, here is a question whether in the future you foresee that it's going to be changed and converted into more environmentally friendly vehicles.
I think, as the cruise lines initially, when they come back, are going to limit the capacity of their ships. I think so too are the shore excursions. They're going to make sure that there's tremendous distance between guests on board a motor coach. So I don't think they're going to fill the motor coach to full capacity until things get back to normal. Some of the tours that will be offered perhaps will offer smaller coaches with a smaller number of people rather than a larger coach, given the current situation. But I think the tour operators are working very, very closely with the cruise lines to ensure that the experience on board is in parallel with the experience ashore in terms of safety.
We actually, on our fleet, most of our ships have fleets of bicycles on board, so we can do bicycle tours for most guests when they arrive at each of the ports.
There you go. Yeah.
So
exactly.
This is something that, although at the moment is not necessarily able to be done based on the protocols, it's a really exciting and it's a well-loved part of the experience that you can get off the ship, go cycling, end up in the city or somewhere like that, and come back. So I think the much more promotion of sustainable excursions is something that's very much at the forefront of my colleagues in the shore excursions team.
Sure.
Then I have a question about ports, and here it's just a question about whether the ports will be able to absorb the new capacity of new cruise ships. So we have seen that it's not just the new ships are replacing the old ones, but the two things that are happening. One is the ships get bigger and bigger, and secondly, the fleet get larger and larger. So obviously you transport more passenger, and we have seen that in statistics that you've shown before, that there is an expectation that the cruise industry is growing over the next 5-10 years, and how the ports will be able to absorb that.
Right.
Please, Bill, go.
Yeah, I think as the capacities of the ships increase, and the ports, obviously, you can only handle so many ships in any given day, given the size of the ships and given the size of the tours and the offerings that the cruise lines have and the demands they have on these various islands. I think the itinerary planners have to work closely with one another from competitive cruise lines to make sure that they plan in such a way that these larger ships don't all arrive at once. And by doing that, I mean, obviously the experience will not be very friendly for cruise guests. Sometimes, you know, on some of these smaller islands, I've seen in the past where the capacity of the number of ships coming in exceeds the capacity or population of the actual island. So I think in the future, there's going to be a lot more working together cooperatively to make sure that that doesn't happen and that there's more space between the arrivals.
I also think the other thing you're going to see is new ports. You know, just to give you an example, when MSC Seaside comes back into service in May, we take the ship to 2 new ports that we've never been to before because we want to offer something different. So I think there will be an ever-increasing diversity of ports that we visit. More, you know, there's a lot of very positive partnerships going on with most ports at the moment to make sure that the number of cruise ship visits is sustainable. I'll give you a great example, Dubrovnik in Croatia, which has worked with the cruise industry to really make sure that it's a sustainable level of guests that come onto the port. And you're going to see more and more of this in terms of local partnerships operating to make sure that the number of cruise guests that arrive at certain places is a sustainable one, you know, whether it be phased arrival of ships, whether it be utilizing more of the off days that would have otherwise been done. I think this will be a good trend going forward.
There is a related question to that, and it's true. I just read the question for you. Venice massively limit cruise ships. Do you expect more destinations to do this? And we have seen that, for instance, if there are 4 or 5 ships coming into Venice at the same time, that there are 25,000-30,000 people all at the same time on the within the small streets of Venice, and they populate in a way the city that it is hard to handle. Do you see this trend continuing? Specifically, we see that in Europe.
I think from my last question, I answer that. But also, you know, Venice is a great example. You know, we are now working with Trieste as another port in this area. So we're trying to diversify the ports so that we don't do this so that too many cruise ships go into specific ports at certain times. So as I just said before, you know, the work that is ongoing is to really invest and find new ports of call to really make sure there is nothing that's too focused at a certain time. I think there's been a lot of big headlines that have come out which have not necessarily been true, and therefore, you know, the industry has to really work as best as it can do to promote some of the initiatives that it's doing there.
Could it also be that we see a trend in size of ships, that going forward the ships get a bit smaller again, more handy, more flexible?
I think you've seen the maximum size of ships. I think the Oasis class on Royal Caribbean is probably as big as they're going to get. You know, from our side, we're not going bigger than that, and I'm not sure what you think there, Bill.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the ships that are coming out won't be any larger than they are now. If not, more often than not, they'll be a little bit smaller, you know, to accommodate
the fastest growth there. Yeah, the fastest growth area is in luxury and expedition cruising, which is small scale size cruising, and I think this is where the most exciting development will come, and that will be in much smaller ships, you know, much more tailored, much more personalized, in terms of the way that the cruise experience will be delivered. I think as a point of difference is the way that the industry will diversify.
Right.
Well, that basically answers the question here that given the ongoing travel restrictions, elevated unemployment, etc., in the US, would you anticipate that cruise line travel in the next years to develop more towards smaller and more luxurious ships? I guess we have partially answered this question just now, and then I think we have time for one more question. If we want to get into this 1 hour, and that is, how long does it take to bring a ship back online? I guess it's a good question because you're probably in the midst of it.
Yeah. Usually the rough time scale is about 2 months. So you obviously, a ship goes into what's called cold layup. So you have a ship in warm layup and cold layup. And a lot of the ships have been sort of put to minimum usage for a period of time. And then bringing them back, they have to go through a lot of safety checks. They have to do a lot of maintenance, a lot of extra work to bring the ship back up to standard again. And roughly that takes about 2 months. So most ships require about 2 months from the point of confirmation to the point of entering into service again.
Bill?
Yeah, no, I agree with Adrian. At least 2 months. I mean, to get everything ready, and with the crew and with the ports, and just to restart the entire operation is a lot of moving parts, and it's tedious and it takes a lot of time.
Well, okay, we have concluded this section, the Q&A. I think we are coming to the end of this webinar. I just would like to thank you, Bill, Adrian, and ultimately also MSC, for which Adrian works, and which we have heard is a Swiss company headquartered in Geneva. And this brings us to the link between the topic today and the Swiss American Chamber of Commerce and SKAL on the other side, for offering us some valuable insights in the future of the cruise industry. It is particularly encouraging to see the effort that has been made to navigate the industry into a more sustainable future. I think possibly this COVID has helped a lot to set the mind straight. I hope you all found the event as informative as I did. No question, the cruise industry is an important economic factor of the tourism industry in Florida and beyond. At the rate cruise vacations are currently booked, it led me to believe that the cruise sector has not lost its appeal.
Absolutely.
I'm convinced if we overcome the pandemic and there is really light at the end of the tunnel, as we all know, the industry will become stronger than ever by adapting its offer, starting with the design of the new builds and ending with the services offered on board. In the name of SKAL and the Swiss American Chamber of Commerce, I would like to thank you for attending this virtual event. Information about future events can be found on our website. The next one for the Swiss American Chamber of Commerce will be the golf tournament at the Grandin Golf Course at Key Biscayne. That is on May 1. But then you have more events coming, and we will be, as we go forward, announce them on the website. Let's close here, and I hope to see you soon again. Thanks again for attending, and good wish for continuation of the rest of the week. Thank you.